First Things is an ecumenical, conservative and, in some views, neoconservative religious journal aimed at advance a religiously informed public philosophy for the ordering of society. The magazine, which focuses on theology, liturgy, church history, religious history, culture, education, society and politics, is interdenominational and interreligious, representing a broad intellectual tradition of Christian and Jewish critique of contemporary society. Published by the New York-based Institute on Religion and Public Life, First Things is published monthly, except for bi-monthly issues covering June, July and August, September. The journal's name is often abbreviated to FD. Founding. First Things was founded in March 1990 by Richard John Neuhaus, a prominent intellectual, writer, activist and Lutheran minister, who converted to the Catholic Church and entered the priesthood shortly after the journal's founding. Fr. Neuhaus served as the journal's editor-in-chief until his death in January 2009 and wrote a regular column called The Public Square. Quote, "He started the journal after his connection with the Rockford Institute was severed. Influence. With a circulation of approximately 30,000 copies, First Things is considered to be influential in its articulation of a broadly ecumenical and erudite social and political conservatism." George Weigel, a longtime contributor and IRPL board member, wrote in Newsweek that, after its founding in the early 1990s, First Things quickly became, under leadership and inspiration, the most important vehicle for exploring the tangled web of religion and society in the English-speaking world. Ross Douthat wrote that, through First Things, Neuhaus demonstrated that it was possible to be an intellectually fulfilled Christian. Editors and contributors. Neuhaus died in January 2009 and was succeeded as editor-in-chief by Joseph Bottom, who had come to the journal from the Weekly Standard. Bottom served through October 2010, when James Newactolin returned from retirement to become interim editor. Reno, a professor of theology at Creighton University who had been involved with the magazine for over a decade, became the magazine's third editor in April 2011. David Mills and Matthew Schmitz were successively deputy editors. Contributors represent traditional Catholic, Orthodox, Protestant, and Jewish viewpoints. Among the frequent contributors in the magazine's first year were Harvard Law professor Mary Ann Glendon, Jewish Rabbi David Novak, Catholic theologian Michael Novak, historian Robert Louis Wilken, papal biographer George Weigel, and Lutheran ethicist Gilbert Melander. Others appearing included Gary Bauer, William Bennett, Peter L. Berger, David Brooks, Robertson Davies, Avery Dulles, Jean Bethke Elshton, Robert P. George, Stanley Howes, David Horowitz, Peter Lethart, Martin D. Marty, Ralph McInerney, Mark Knoll, and Michael Wishegrod. Frequent contributors in recent years have included many of those writers, as well as Mark Bauerlin, Bishop Charles J. Chaput, David Bentley Hart, Mary Eberstadt, Anthony M. Esolan, Timothy George, Wilfred M. Maclay, Robert Royal, Roger Scruton, Wesley J. Smith, and Carl Truman. The magazine publishes articles every day in the web-exclusive section of its website. Governance. The journal is run by the board of the Institute on Religion and Public Life, which is chaired by Robert Louis Wilken and whose members include, among others, Mary Ann Glendon, Russell Hittinger, David Novak, and George Weigel, as of April 2016. Similarly to Neuhaus, Wilken is a former Lutheran minister converted to the Catholic Church. Former members of the editorial board include neoconservatives Gertrude Himmelfarb and Peter L. Berger, who resigned in November 1996 amid the end of democracy controversy, and Methodist theologian Stanley Hauers, who resigned in February 2002 in protest with the Journal's stance on the War on Terror. Both Berger, a Lutheran, and Hauers continued to publish articles in the Journal also after the resignation from the editorial board. The Journal's advisory council is appointed by the editorial board and, as of April 2016, includes, among others, neoconservative writers Michael Novak and Midge Decter, historian Wilfred M. Maclay, philosophers Hadley Arks and Robert P. George, political scientist Timothy Fuller, Christian theologians or biblicists Gary A. Anderson, Thomas C. Godet, Timothy George, Terrell Givens, Chad Hatfield, Robert Jensen, Peter Lethart, Cornelius Plantinga, and Efren Radner. Jewish scholars David G. Dalen and Eric Cohen, founding editor of the New Atlantis, physicist Stephen Barth, and Mark C. Henry, chief academic officer of the Intercollegiate Studies Institute. Former members of the council include Jean Bethke Elst and Ernest Fortin, Elizabeth Fox Genoves, Suzanne Garment, Bruce C. Haffen, Carl F. H. Henry, Leonid Kishkovsky, Glenn Lurie, George Marsden, Gilbert Melander, and Max Lind Stackhouse.